So that's satire. And for, as I say, for an expert on satire, we should look in to Mark Twain, because he was probably the sharpest guy of his time, and even, I would say, I don't think anyone surpassed him today. But if there was a con going on, he'd see it. If politicians or people in power were getting away with different things or conning the public, he would see through it right away. And he had the gift to put it out to the public in terms they understood very quickly, very easily. Very, very sharp person. But as I say, isn't it amazing that nothing today, because we've been through all these shocks and awes since 2001 especially, with coming plagues and this and that and the other, and government coming into every sphere of your life, that nothing really surprises us. Mandatory inoculations from the top and the whole things that would have had riots going in the streets back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s we're just accept now, like a beaten down public. As government rises up to its, as some would say, as the Fabians would say, it's rising up to its proper position of total control. That's what socialism truly is. People who are into socialism really still think at the bottom level, it was like Marxism, at the bottom level they think somehow people up there represent them, and only them. And they feel their pain and all that kind of stuff. And they never question why multimillionaires or how multimillionaires would have anything in common with you at all. And now it can be so bad that lots of people are going to be fooled further and longer until they catch on that Mr. Obama is just one of the authorized boys. It'll take longer, but eventually, when a lot of things have been introduced that you don't really want have happened, then they'll catch on. Maybe towards the end of his term. I knew people in Britain, adults, when I was a youngster, who believed in Marxism. These were all working class people, some of them were miners, and they could spout off the common terms they'd heard. And when I'd ask them, do you know what Marxism and communism is really all about? They couldn't go very far at all. They still, it's for the working people, it's for fairness, it's for this, it's for that. And of course, when I went into the books at school, I found no. And I did the history of Fabianism and socialism. It's about total control, with no interference of family or anything, because they want to eradicate family. Anyone who can stand up for you will be out of the way. You'll be on your own, and government will be talking directly down to you, number so-and-so. Like George Orwell's 1984 black and white movie that was made in tribute to him. In 1984, they made the movie, and the television camera talks right down to, there's no one, no neighbor, no friend, no relative to stand up on his behalf around him to support you. That's what socialism is. And government will control everything, the proper ways, they say, the proper way of running a world and running all life on the planet properly. That's what it's all about. And it's unfortunate that today people have to even use satire, and it's more unfortunate that people can't catch on to it, because it's like I think it was it MASH magazine or Mad magazine? Mad? When they closed it down. They said that life had become so bizarre that you couldn't really lampoon anything anymore, because so many bizarre things were actually happening. So many amazing statements were made by government officials that at one time only existed in satire or lampooning. Not today. When that professor stood up and talked about getting rid of all the white males, he got a standing ovation, and that is mainstream. We don't react. Some things happen to people, we don't react. Now, I expected to see this a long time ago. I did see a long time ago in the European countries that are very old countries, very old systems, where they've never ever had a constitution with giving them individual rights. In fact, individual really is not mentioned much at all. So the US was the last place where individuality was pushed, the rights of the individual, and people exercised them. Everyone knew them. And at one time, if a cop stopped you for no reason, you'd tell him that. And you knew your rights. And he would know, and he'd walk away too if you were in the right. But not now. Now it's jump and do and obey, or we'll taser you, at the very least. And we're not fazed by it. We're not fazed by all the horrific stories we're given on tasering and what's happened. Nothing bothers. Maybe that's why they call it taser. It's close to phaser. Nothing phases us anymore. Do you know what a taser is? Again, I go into perception, how you perceive things. Do you know what a taser is? A taser is a cattle prod on wires. They're using cattle prods on the general public and they're electrocuting them. It's a cattle prod. Something they've used for years and years and years to coerce animals along a certain path of behavior. So that's what a taser is. It's a cattle prod with wires, but it's still a cattle prod. And guess who they're using them on? You. What does that mean that you are? It's all how you perceive things. And it's also being used for compliance, you see. What did they do before they had something to make you comply? They'd have to simply grab you. They used to grab people. They were trained how to grab people without hurting them. Before the days where they get you on the ground face down and just like hit your neck with a knee in the back of the neck, which they really enjoy now. We see it in so many videos now. That doesn't faze us either. Back with more after these messages. Hi folks, I'm Alan Watt. We're cutting through the matrix where we try to show you other ways to perceive things and to show you why we're taught new words that really amazingly cover what you really should be seeing, like the tasering, for instance. This article here is it's amazing how far, again, nothing phases us, nothing does. And this is from New Mexico by Chell Delaney. It's Tucumcari police officers taser a 14-year-old. It's a girl. Thursday, July the 9th, 2009. 14-year-old Tucumcari girl is recovering at an Albuquerque hospital after being shot in the head with a taser dart by Tucumcari Police Chief Roger Hatcher, quite a name, Hatcher. Now her parents say they want the police department to review its policies for using the taser. The girl was hit in the head Thursday by one of two darts fired simultaneously as she was fleeing, Hatcher said. The other dart lodged in her hip. Hatcher said he believed he had no other option. There's no option. The other one, by the way, went into her brain. It says there's a lot of issues. He had no option. He was on the run, chasing her. Even though she hadn't been charged with anything. In fact, the complaint hadn't really been officially even registered. And all she had was a fight with her mum. But Hatcher said he believed he had no other option, right, to shoot her. It says a lot of issues, Hatcher said. She committed a delinquent act. Now, I grew up, like everybody else grew up, and we've all gone through different stages in adolescence and to the teenage years and so on. And I don't know anybody that did not at some time do something really crazy and do some kind of delinquent act, where it's stealing apples from an orchard or whatever it happened to be. So you've done something somewhere. But you never got shot in the head for it. Or you never had a cattle prod electrocute you for doing. Hi, folks. I'm Alan Watt. We're cutting through the matrix. We got cut off there, and it's odd because I heard the click like someone just switched it off, and so did the guy on the board at RBN. Just a click like someone had hung us up, and that was it. We're off the air. That happens to me quite often, actually usually later on. But it's the first time for a while I've had that during the show. I've been talking about tasering, which is just using a cattle prod, and about how a policeman in Tucumcari tasered a girl, Albuquerque way, and shot her basically in the head and the hip, but the one in the head went into her brain. We'll just accept now, like a beaten down public. As government rises up to its, as some would say, as the Fabians would say, it's rising up to its proper position of total control. That's what socialism truly is. People who are into... So that's satire. And as I say, for an expert on satire, we should look into Mark Twain, because he was probably the sharpest guy of his time, and even, I would say, I don't think anyone surpassed him today. If there was a con going on, he'd see it. If politicians or people in power were getting away with different things or conning the public, he would see through it right away. And he had the gift to, with coming plagues and this and that and the other, and government coming into every sphere of your life, that nothing really surprises us. Mandatory inoculations from the top and the whole things that would have had riots going in the streets back in the 60s, 70s, and 80s, put out to the public in terms they understood very quickly, very easily. Very, very sharp person. But as I say, isn't it amazing that nothing today, because we've been through all these shocks and awes since 2001 especially,